Yeah, I actually have several points, but I think my main one is I cannot see any way to go back to these sites that we set aside. We made a decision, and twice this council has pushed those forward, and people in this community have banked on that decision. We have made that decision. In looking at this, I could say no site was ideal, absolutely, but that I've come around to South Park being the one that will work. I agree with Councilor Zeal Dingman that water towers and parks, Googled it, and they're all over the place, and that's when you look at the sightline graphics that Mr. Richards put up. It's one of the softer sight lines, actually. Yes, wherever you do this, construction is going to be impact, but it will go away, as Councilor Freeman says. Just to me personally, I'm being a little random here, I'm sorry, but when I started out, the thing that bothered me is the design, and I thought, we're doing this in a historical part of town, it ought to be historical. But then this is where not a number of comments, but one comment, well made, thoughtfully made, can persuade people. And in the meeting in February, a person stood up and said, well, you know, we're actually a modern city. INL is leading edge technology. Why not have a leading edge tower? And I started thinking, okay, I'm going to be able to live with this, and I know why I'm going to be able to live with it, even though it's not a historical structure. Now, I also think the one thing that I agree with Councilor Freeman on is the land and water conservation. I do not think we, as a city, should go forward until the conversion is done. Because if we construct and knowingly violate the Land and Water Conservation Fund, I think that's just, it's absolutely irresponsible to do that. So, design plan, I'm for keep going. I do not want to go back to anything we've rejected up to this point, unless there's one of the other sites that could be worked out in some way. But not to go back to those two sites, the Chesbro site and the Willow Tree sites, as I call them. But the idea that we would knowingly violate the Water Conservation Fund, I can't accept that. And I think that it's important for us to know, and I did not know this until over the last many months of meeting with Director Holm and talking through this whole mitigation thing, we have to start thinking of two different words. We have two pieces of land, two parcels in Idaho Falls that we owe mitigation on. And as Councilor Burtenshaw said in another meeting, we kind of did that unknowingly, that we sold off, I believe, part of Esquire Park. And that was a violation 24 years ago. We have to mitigate for that to get back in compliance. And then the building of the new Dora Erickson building, the city stepped into land that was land and water conservation land. But we didn't exactly have it straight. And I'm not blaming anybody, but it just happened that way. Those two pieces of property have to be mitigated, but we can mitigate them with land the city already owns as long as we develop them as some kind of park that would meet the same standards. Conversion is a different process. And now I finally think I've got it sort of laid out in a timeline that I can understand, and it is difficult. And I did not know this in May of 2020, I have to admit that, how detailed it was. Or in January 28th of 2021. But it can be done. The conversion is a process that's understood and acceptable, and I think the National Park Service makes clear that they have a conversion process because things change in cities, and you just have to be sure that you're matching communities for the community what's given up in this. What has to be converted is the construction zone. Is that correct, Director Holm? Yeah. And not the whole park, but about a third of an acre, if I think I remember that right. I think we can do it. I think we have to lay out a plan, but I do not think we should proceed with construction until that is done, because that is an open violation that we knowingly would have done. And it's different than mitigation, but the process is there and we can do it. It may delay it a bit, but it doesn't delay the design importance of going forward with design, because I'm still in favor of the park as the choice of what's in front of us right now. Okay, stop.